Yeah, what's going on? Just got done recording my college football podcast for the week. That's going to be out today. But yesterday was the first day of training camp, right? And I released my pro show, did an entire preview of training camp. I talked about Dak Prescott's contract situation and a lot of other things in regards to what I thought about that. I thought I was very positive about Dak, other than kind of just talking about the fact of what his record is against playoff qualifying teams. I'm going to bring that back up just because of this. But Dak Prescott had a press conference yesterday that definitely made a lot of news and waves around the country and especially Cowboys fans from the things that he said. And I'm going to play it for you and then give you my thoughts on it. But I do want to say and preface it with when I originally just read the quotes, it really pissed me off. Hearing him say it and giving context to his tonality and voice and what he's saying doesn't make it as bad. And yet, there are some things to talk about with this from a Cowboys perspective, from where the rumors stand at. And I just really truly believe that like logic on this situation has been thrown completely out of the fucking window, and I would like to bring it back into play. So I'm just gonna make a quick video on my reaction on this after playing the video. Here it is for you guys.
That they have once, I have once.
I'm gonna restart it.
It's a two-way street that they have once, I have once. I think I've deserved that. Understanding that this is a business, and obviously I want to be here. Talking about growing up, this is where I've become a man. So, but at the end of the day, it's a business, and you know when. I'm gonna say it. I want to be here, but you know, when you look up, all the great quarterbacks I watched played for other teams. So my point in saying that is that that's not something to fear. That may be a reality for me one day, may not be my decision. So that's the freedom that I have is be where your feet are, make the most of it, be confident in yourself, make your team better. I love my teammates. I love that locker room. I love everything about being out here in Oxnard and being a Dallas Cowboy. So that's what allows me to be free and focused and understand that and time comes, who knows what comes. As I said, I've been through a lot of adversity personally that it's about, you know, being thankful for where you are, hugging and loving on your loved ones and taking it one day at a time and handling the rest.
So very well said by him, right? Like it's hard to be bothered by the way he delivered that, but I want to kind of break it down. There was one thing that stood out more than anything to me in that statement, and it stood out just because it has a lot to do with the conversation that exists with Dak Prescott and where does this I just had okay. It has a lot to do that exists with the conversation. Dak Prescott extending him, the fan base, people that are on the side of paying him, and people that are on the other side, right? And there's too heavy of a line in the sand where it's extreme on this side and it's extreme on that side. Where the side that wants to pay Dak has become like LeBron James cultic fans, and it's Dak over the franchise, and they want to act like Dak Prescott could retire and be a first ballot Hall of Famer today, and that it's logic to say that he's the best quarterback in the league or one of, you know, they're way too far on that side, and then the other people on the other side don't want to acknowledge anything that Dak has done great, right? So I want to talk about the comments he said of when I look around at all the other great quarterbacks, they all played for different teams. Who are you talking about? This is something that's very important that I think stands out to me the most from the Dak camp. Not only him specifically and his agent and whatnot, because I can make sense of that, but the fan bases that support him. Are you talking about Aaron Rodgers, Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, Joe Montana, Brett Favre even, and the list goes on? Are you talking about those guys? All first ballot Hall of Famers, some of the greatest quarterbacks of all time? Because if you, in the Dak Prescott camp, and the fans that are putting him in this category truly logically think that he deserves to be in that category, then you have the awareness that Skip Bayless has that I talked about yesterday. Of Skip thinking it was him and not Stephen A. Smith and Shannon Sharp. Listen, Dak deserves the credit that he gets. And he deserves credit for his constant improvement that I talked about on the show yesterday, his improvement that he made up until last year, coming off the best statistical season of his entire career. And yet, he does not exist on the same planet as those guys that I just mentioned. Let's talk again about what I said yesterday and what I went through of his career against playoff qualifying teams. Dak Prescott, not just in the playoffs, year in, year out, when he plays teams that made the playoffs in that season that they played, he is 17-32. You guys want to bring up one of the Niners playoff games where he got hit a lot, or maybe another playoff game where he didn't have the protection to really give him a chance, or maybe there's a handful of those situations. And all 32 of these losses were not because of the offensive line or because he didn't have enough weapons. And not all of them were because the defense didn't show up that day. He plays the most important position in sports for the most valuable franchise in all of sports. And the reports are out that he wants to be the first quarterback to make over $60 million a year. How do you hear 17-32 versus playoff qualifiers, 82 touchdowns to 47 interceptions? That's a 1.74 touchdown to interception ratio. That's bad. How do you hear that and stomach $65 million a year? In 2016, he went 2-3 with 6 touchdowns to 4 interceptions against playoff qualifiers. 2017, he went 2-3, 6 touchdowns to 4 interceptions against playoff qualifiers. Repeated it. In 2018, he went 3-4, 5 touchdowns to 7 interceptions against playoff qualifiers. In 2019, he went 1-6 with 8 touchdowns, 8 interceptions against playoff qualifiers. In 2020, he went 0-3 with 8 touchdowns to 3 interceptions against playoff qualifiers. He broke his leg. In 2021, he went 3-5 with 19 touchdowns, 5 interceptions against playoff qualifiers. In 2022, he went 3-3 with 13 touchdowns and 8 interceptions against playoff qualifiers. The 8 interceptions was the reason we lost most of those games. That was the narrative the entire offseason. 2023, he goes 3-5 last season with 17 touchdowns, 8 interceptions against playoff qualifiers. Tell me how you stomach the fact that he hasn't had a single season as the franchise quarterback in Dallas where not only the playoff record, fuck the playoff record. You guys, look at all these other quarterbacks of their playoff record. They don't have playoff success. It's very hard to have playoff success in the NFL. I can stomach that. He hasn't had a single season where he's had a winning record against playoff teams in the NFL. Not a single season. Going into year 10, 31 years of age he's about to be, or he is. I don't remember which one. All right? And then the other side of this, from the Cowboys standpoint of looking at that, yes, he has them out leveraged because, yes, there's a $40 million cap hit that we're going to take if he just walks. I get that's not ideal for anybody in the world. And yet, it's been about 30 years since we've won a Super Bowl. What's another if he just goes and we have another wild card or divisional round exit where he plays piss poor like he did against Green Bay a year ago and doesn't get us anywhere that Tony Romo, Quincy Carter, or anybody else that has come since Troy Aikman walked out the doors of the old Valley Ranch hasn't been able to do, right? At that point, what's another year where you take a $40 million playoff hit where it's kind of clear and obvious to everybody that the team and the organization may want a divorce? I had somebody tell me that Dak Prescott clip yesterday was heartbreaking to listen to. That really bothered me because there's nothing about Dak Prescott's time in Dallas that should be heartbreaking. Dak Prescott has gone through a lot of personal issues, and he mentioned that. That's heartbreaking. I can empathize and hear in the cadence and tonality of his voice, whether he's talking about it or whether he's giving a commercial ad. You can always hear. I've personally dealt with, I would say, an overwhelming amount of death between family members and close friends, and young deaths that probably shouldn't have happened. That changes the vernacular and tonality in which someone speaks in for the rest of your life. I can hear that when Dak Prescott speaks. I can empathize with it. I love Dak Prescott as a person. I think Dak Prescott's been a hell of a quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys. Probably has a great argument. He probably is the third best quarterback in franchise history, especially resume-wise. There's really nothing else to compare it to. And yet, I'm a person of logic, and It's been 27 years without a Super Bowl or even sniffing one, and I can look at those stats, know what my eyes have seen every time we face one of those teams, one of those defense, and understand that if we give him 60 plus $1 million a year, this is a franchise kicking the can down a road in a relationship that they already know what to expect, what they receive at that standard, and know that they don't want anymore. Because if they wanted it, you know what he wants, you know what his price point is. You could have got him for cheaper a year ago. You didn't want to do it. Why didn't you want to do it? Because what I just listed out for you. I mentioned yesterday, I used an analogy. They've been engaged for 9 years and they don't have a wedding date. Why is that? Because there's cold feet. They can't commit to each other. What it is they're afraid of the others, whether it be the Cowboys, whether it be Dak Prescott, moving on and upgrading in their next situation. And you don't want to see that. So instead, you think, you know what? It might be safe. Call up Todd France. Just give him what he wants. Let's kick the can down the road and do it again. Because I think we're going to win a lot of games against average to below average teams. I think he'll probably continue to beat up against our incompetent division, where teams like Philadelphia want to give Saquon Barkley, who plays maybe 10 games a year at best, $12 million a year, and gave Jalen Hurts 50 million plus when they made the Super Bowl off of a loaded roster, not because of Jalen Hurts, off of a loaded roster in very, very good playoff circumstances. It was the easiest cakewalk to a Super Bowl I've ever seen, playing Daniel Jones and then the Niners without a quarterback. Don't make the mistake that the Eagles made. Don't make the mistake that the Giants made. In fact, don't make the mistake you made the last time with Dak Prescott. Let this ride out. You can hear Dak wants to be a Dallas Cowboy. I'm fine with Dak being a Dallas Cowboy forever. It's not fuck Dak, like I've said before, out of anger and frustration and moments and whatever. It's fuck the Dak Prescott thing as the highest paid quarterback of all time. Let's let the year play out. If he wins the Super Bowl, gets us to the conference championship, and however it ends, we take away knowing that Dak Prescott got us there and we don't get there without him, then give him what he's asking for. But if not, we need to be able to have a discussion with Dak Prescott where we paint the picture that says, hey, we want you to be here in Dallas. You say you want to be in Dallas. Look at the weapons we've gotten for you. Not since you just got into the league, but look at the ones you got now. You got the best receiver in the world. You got potentially a guy that might be the best tight end in the world one day. You got the two best guards in America and on the planet. We just drafted another tackle in the first round that we think can be that. Okay? We got an all-world defensive lineman that wants to be the highest paid player that's not a quarterback in the NFL, and he's going to be, whether it's us or somebody else. Same with CeeDee Lamb, the highest paid non-quarterback not named Dak Prescott. Right? You got all-pro. You got two all-pro cornerbacks on the other side. You're going to make a lot of money. You've already made more money than you could ever make to cry sad tears again. You make more money off the field than any other quarterback, maybe other than Patrick Mahomes. Maybe. Why don't you take 50 a year instead of 60 to 65? Maybe even 55. But Dak, you're a Super Bowl away from changing the entire narrative that I just read off. You're a Super Bowl away from being a Hall of Famer. Someone mentioned Matt Stafford to me yesterday, and they said Matt Stafford was a guy like Dak before the trade, where he was just in the abyss of this franchise, yada, yada, yada. That's insane. Matt Stafford reclassified from high school, skipped his senior year a lot like Quinn Ewers did. I actually compare Quinn to Stafford. That's my comp on Quinn Ewers. Stafford / Aaron Rodgers. What a fucking comp, right? He skipped his senior year to join the Georgia Bulldogs because he was that fucking good. He was the number one quarterback in America at Highland Park in the Dallas area, right? Number one player in the country. Skips his senior year, still the number one player in the country. Goes to Georgia, starts 3 years at Georgia, right? Number one overall pick in the draft. Matt Stafford has been generational since he was probably 13, 14 years old. Okay? Number one pick in the draft, was one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL for one of the more incompetent and poverty-driven franchises in the history of all American sports for the first half of his career, more than half of his career, right? The Lions have an argument to be the worst franchise in the history of the NFL. They probably are. In a impoverished city, in a impoverished franchise, compared to the standards of the Dallas Cowboys. He got traded to the LA Rams and immediately won a Super Bowl. Matt Stafford is not Dak Prescott, rather, is not Matt Stafford, okay? And I'm not shitting on him. Tip his cap for becoming what he became when out of high school. Unlike Matt Stafford, not many not many major programs were offering Dak Prescott to play quarterback. In fact, LSU and the big time programs wanted him to play tight end or something like that. He goes to play Mississippi State because he was dedicated to playing quarterback. Tip of the cap to him again. He overachieved at Mississippi State, getting in the Heisman conversation, getting Mississippi State to the #1 team in America. What happened when Dak Prescott played Alabama? He was below average. He had like 3 interceptions in that game. They got their ass whooped in Tuscaloosa. The score doesn't tell the story. Mississippi State scored a late touchdown that game to bring it to one possession. Remember, Alabama had like Blake Sims at quarterback during that time with Amari Cooper, and he still struggled at quarterback. So they weren't putting up 50 plus points a game during that era. But Dak, kind of like throughout his NFL career, when he plays the best of the best, he falls to where his ceiling is. And it's really above average at best. Dak Prescott's ceiling is not highest paid quarterback of all time. Dak Prescott's ceiling is not Matthew Stafford. Matt Stafford's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. Dak can do that with winning championships and will be a massive overachiever, and he deserves all the credit and praise in the world for that. But this weird cultic conversation of where people are attacked, just like people get attacked for liking Dak. I understand y'all get attacked by all the Dak haters in the world just as much as anybody, but the Dak cultic fan base attacks everybody in the world the same way around, and you like to use things like the last 50 start graphic comparisons of Dak and Patrick Mahomes, or Dak and so-and-so, or Dak and some former player, and oh, you guys don't want to see this. Well, why don't you do the last 50 playoff qualifying team start comparisons with Dak and Patrick Mahomes, right? Do Dak versus playoff team graphics against other quarterbacks versus playoff team graphics, and see why the franchise and guys like myself are hesitant to make him the highest paid quarterback of all time, and to fall in line with this notion of that's how it works. The last guy got this guy gets $1 more. That's how it works. Yeah, that's how it works for teams that don't win Super Bowls. The Chiefs don't do that at every position. The Chiefs didn't even fucking do it. Patrick Mahomes, he has the largest grossing contract of all time, but it was very much structured to be like it is now, long term, which Dak and Todd France are unwilling to accept so they can get back to the negotiation table. Patrick Mahomes structured a contract so he could continue to compete and win the most Super Bowls as he possibly could to go down as the greatest quarterback and player of all time. The other thing you guys like to use is the $40 million cap hit. I don't want that. I'd rather get Dak at a decent price and have this loaded team and try to win Super Bowls with Dak Prescott than take a $40 million hit. But you know what else you also take a financial hit in? Divorces. But some divorces still need to happen even though you're going to take a financial hit. I hate to say it. You know, some divorces need to happen. Some become toxic and abusive. This is abusive whether the two are abusing each other or not. The fan base is split because of it. There's constant drama year round. Dak can't go dance at a wedding without there being headlines of how happy he looks in spite of the contract drama and just constant bullshit. Rumors. One day he's going to get $65 million a year. The next day we're going to move on to Trey Lance. I think more than anything, you're going to pay CeeDee Lamb, priority #1. Figure that out, man. Let's let this puppy ride out. Let's let the season happen. Dak's already made a lot of money. If he gets hurt, something like that happens, he's going to be okay in his life. Don't try to come at me morally on some stupid bullshit I don't give a fuck about. What I care about on the Shonee Jackson Show is Lombardi #6. And I want you to think closely and hardly about Dak Prescott's 17-32 record against playoff qualifying teams, and really come at me with logic on why he should get $60 to $65 million a year, and convince me that he could do that and we can get Lombardi #6. That's my Dak Prescott reaction video of his press conference yesterday, day 1 of camp. We're going to move forward. It's about Lombardi #6 on the SJ Show, baby. Get on board or get off board. You're with us or you're the enemy. This is going to be a cult on the Shonee Jackson Show. Make no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I'm establishing a cult. You're either on board or I fucking hate you and you're my enemy. Thanks for watching. I love y'all more than you know. Not as much as you think. God bless.